welcome to Tuesday's 10-minute topic. We're doing part 2 with Dr. Tommy John and his 4-prong approach to minimizing injury, maximizing performance. The last time we spoke, we discussed rethinking. Today, it's all about rebuilding. But first of all, Dr. John, please tell us, why is this such an important topic?
So the rethinking portion of it?
Well, overall, why is injury such a big deal and important?
So what's happening now is there's injury epidemics across the board in all sports. We're seeing ACL surgeries are becoming a public health issue. Concussions have increased 500% in the last few years in boys and girls. The soft tissue surgery, the income that's coming from soft tissue surgeries is supposed to hit over 17 billion in the year 2022. The Tommy John surgeries, there's an elbow injury. It's 57% of them are occurring in 15 to 19-year-olds. So there's dysfunction across the board that we're seeing in all sports. And it's kind of coinciding with the fact that youth sports is a $15 billion a year industry, in addition to some other factors that we'll discuss.
And the fact that kids are playing sports year-round now, where they used the same sport, I should clarify, year-round, where they used to not be doing that.
Yes, it was noted in a study, over 54% of parents are pushing for a single sport specialization, meaning playing one sport for more than 8 months a year.
Okay, well, moving right in, let's get the clock going here. So last time it was rethinking. We learned a lot of interesting things with that. Today, again, it's going to be rebuilding. And while I'm getting my clock ready, why don't you tell us what rebuilding means to you and your 4-prong approach?
So why we use the word rebuild. At one point in our lives, our greatest training results were from 0 years old to about 2 years old. We went from almost paralyzed to being able to crawl, sit up, walk, skip, run, jump, climb, all self-taught. We were deadlifting, we were squatting, we were expert movers. At about 3-4 years old, we're supple, we're in alignment, everything's balanced. We don't really have a handedness really yet. A lot of these things haven't come in. And then we get into sports and traumas, and we're mimicking our parents with postural habit, and we go to schools and we sit a majority of the day, and then you bring in technology. There's a lot of things that tear apart at the natural development of the human athlete, regardless of what they compete in. So this system is to rebuild ourselves back to the way we once were, start there, and then we're on the right path to creating a body that can handle sport, it can handle life, it can handle really anything that's thrown at it.
Okay, perfect. Let's get into it. We're starting our timer.
Let's do it.
The first part of rebuilding is the ReEvolution regimen. What does that mean?
So it's based on thousands of hours of athlete-tested protocols that I've seen in over 17 years, but then I also based it on long-term athletic development. We want to get used to that, LTAD. A lot of cultures will abide by these rules where we basically take the athlete when they're young, because remember, every time I say athlete, it's just a human being. We're all athletes. We start them off when we're young, and we master functional movements, we master coordination, we master balance and agility and kinesthetic awareness, being like knowing your body in space. There's all these things that we should, as a foundation, build up, and then we add the strength training paradigm to it. And then on the very top, and I'll show you something I've drawn up on a board that'll actually give you a graphic of it, we add the skill, which is the sport, at the very end of it. So this regimen takes all those truths, all those principles into consideration and basically builds the athlete up from the ground up, allowing the skill, whatever it may be, shooting baskets, playing soccer, swimming, to be done with ease, with very little fatigue, and most importantly, without injury. And if you do get injured, you come back very quickly. So that graphic, if we want to look at this, there's something called the performance pyramid. And you'll see the biggest part of that pyramid on the bottom, it's functional movements. Those are the squats, the deadlifts, the lunging, the baby movements. I saw a baby at a talk I gave not too long ago. She's 1 year old. She picked up this medicine ball that was 4.5 pounds exhaled on the way up. She exhaled this big oof, had a back that was flat. Her butt was low. It was so amazing to watch this little baby deadlift like a master, and nobody taught her anything. So it's very interesting that these were taught to us by ourselves when we were younger. We're just supposed to keep up that side of the bargain. And then once we master these, then this middle section, the functional performance, it's sitting on top of the functional development, the foundation. That's when we resist those movements. We add weight, we add tubing, we add electricity. We call it a strength program. But the movements have to be mastered first before we resist. And then on the very, very, very top portion of this, that's the fun part. It's the functional skill. It's the hitting of the tennis ball. It's the shooting of the basketball. It's the kicking of the soccer ball. What this regimen does is go into that pyramid, and it starts it from the ground up and builds up as it goes to shape every athlete. Now, this shape doesn't change regardless of age. So that's a 9-year-old how they develop, or that's a 99-year-old. I've had pro athletes, Charles Tillman, the Chicago Bears, Devin Hester, Ian Cole, who's an NHL hockey player, Chris Duhon of the Bulls, minor league baseball players to full scholarship female soccer players, to everybody's in that spectrum, or the gentleman who just presented last week with a replaced hip at 70 years old. We have to build from the ground up. Today's pyramid is misshapen where it's inverted. The top, there's so much skill going on. There's so much strength training and specialized speed, agility, quickness classes and all these things on this tiny little foundation. And pretty soon that thing topples over, where we would see an injury. And basically people are coming into my office and I have to like prop up that pyramid and rebuild it from the ground up. And I equate it to this. It's a great analogy. The American training paradigm, the way it's set up nowadays, besides being an inverted pyramid, if you think of it like this, the athletes at any level are coming into these training systems, the American training system, and they're spelling their name wrong and they're asking for help. Can you show me how to spell my name right? Can you help me with this? And what the American system does to increase ability at the expense of durability, we're spelling the name wrong, but we're pressing harder when we're spelling it. So it's like expressing these errors greater for the sake of jumping higher, running faster, throwing harder. Nobody can sustain injury epidemics. And now we've got this name spelled wrong well into our 20s, 30s, and then late life. And then we're having these degenerative issues early on because of what our childhood was.
Okay, it's super, super interesting and so important. I do have a question on those bottom layers of the pyramid. Now, are those going to be sports specific, or is that just human specific? Like, it doesn't matter what sport you're doing, or would a soccer player be working on different things than a baseball player?
That's such an awesome question. So here's what we want to think. If you think about what sports are to the brain doesn't know it's soccer, basketball, or swimming. It just knows it's flexion, extension, abduction, adduction. It's movements of joints that we sequence to carry out a skill, like shooting a basketball. So that pyramid, it's the basic human movements on the bottom, not soccer specific, not basketball specific, all specific, that comprise every movement in any sport ever devised by man, ever. All those movements feed up. Now we resist those so that we have power and speed and velocity and strength. And then the very top is what you said with the sport specific. That's where it's teach me how to throw a javelin, teach me how to shoot a basketball, teach me how to kick a soccer ball. But we can't do those things till the bottom is built up. So the bottom is general, the middle is still kind of general, and the top is where we get into the specifics of the sport. Problem is now we're getting into some major specifics at 9, 10, 11, when it should be like 10% skill specific at that ages and 90% developmental at our practices.
And so if they don't have access, can't reach you, I mean, I know your book is coming out, but if there's a parent that lives far away, what are they to do?
That's a great question. So a lot of this, I just spoke with somebody on Facebook today, and it used to be taken care of with free play. It used to literally, the kids would figure this stuff out. So if we can try to promote that, all the better. Now that's getting harder and harder to do, because if we send them outside and they free play, well, the group is staring at phones, or the groups are sitting down, and it's like, my kid's going now out into this group, and they're just like huddled up in this hive looking at their phones outside. It's like, what's the difference in that? At least they're outside. So it's one of those things where if we can try to promote free play, that's number one. If we can really try to promote playing as many sports as we can, even if we just don't know how to do it, that's the point. All these general movements that I'm talking about, if the sport is approached appropriately, will be taken care of. Okay? There's another thing. 82% in a study released in the Wall Street Journal, 82% of parents polled reported that they did chores. They did chores when they were younger. And only 28% require their kids to do chores now. Like, chores and carrying and washing and digging, some of those things being brought back in, that comprises that pyramid naturally. It'll just happen. So here's something and maybe the listeners or the viewers can attest to this, because I had many clients that the infamous Buddha belly, like when the kids are little and the little belly sticks out, and it's just like, it's adorable. But then it's like, okay, they're 9 and they still have a Buddha belly. What's wrong? It's got to be something neurological, or we got to go to a specialist. Honestly, one of the things that I've tried to get clients or family, friends, whomever, where their kids have been suffering from this Buddha belly, as soon as they carry something, when they carry, the abdominal muscles are for breathing, that stomach gets pulled in to support the spine naturally. And then all of a sudden, you didn't tell them to do an exercise because they won't do it. It's a negative relationship with physical activity, and that's what we don't want. We can't have them thinking that this is exercise. It's just, can you carry this for mom? Hey, can you carry this? And all of a sudden now, without saying anything about it, that stomach gets drawn in. Now, over the course of thousands and thousands of hours and attempts, now that stomach is nice and supported. Another thing was like blowing up balloons. You'll use their abdominals to exhale breath. That's what that baby did at 1 year old when it was deadlifting something like a third of its size. So bringing back those chores, free play, playing as many sports as we can. Those are great places to start, instead of overthinking like, how many squats should we do a day? Or how many? It's not that complicated. The complication comes with my difficulty in practice when somebody shows up developed in their late teen years with a goal to play high-level sports. Now we got to get specific, assuming that their pyramid's already developed. Well, as it was with the NFL, NHL, NBA that I've seen, those guys come in and their pyramids are inverted, so I got to build them up from the ground up, or lead the way, basically. So
this stuff is so crucial, so interesting, so helpful. If you can believe it, our timer just went off, and we've only got through one. What do you think? Should we pick one more to try to get in here and just come back? Again, we're talking with Dr. Tommy John. He's written a book. It's coming out this summer, How to Minimize Injury, Maximize Performance. Fascinating, interesting work. We're talking about rebuilding today. If we do one more, Dr. John, which one should we do?
You pick it.
Okay, why is the best sports shoe no shoe?
Awesome. I was hoping you picked that one. So everything we do, being what's called bipeds, we're two-footed animals. Everything is supported on top of the foot. So if we know the glutes are important. We know the hamstrings are important. We know the spinal extensors are important. All these shoulder muscles, everything in the neck, it's all important, but it's all hinged upon the connection between foot to ground. Something interesting to understand. There's over 4 layers of muscles of the foot. The only other area of the body that exists is the back. And the muscles of the back are very important, as you know, specifically, right? So we need feet. Our feet need to be so strong. And if you look at a child when they first grow up, like barefoot, they're going, their feet are wide toe boxes. Their toes are nice and wide. They haven't been shaped into a narrow shoe just yet. The cushion and the shape of these sports shoes tell the brain the shoe is doing the support I don't have to keep those muscles adept at doing their job because the brain will pick path of least resistance. It's trying to survive. So what ends up happening is when we pour ourselves into these shoes, a majority of the time, that 4-layered, everything hinging on that area gets very weak. One of the first questions I ask when people walk in and they have an injury or they're coming in as clients, any history of injuries with the ankles, feet, shins? Almost certainly, over 99% of them coming in with something. The last shoulder, elbow injuries I had in baseball players all stem from the feet. I got a volleyball player with knee stuff. Feet are the issue. So again, that's such a main area of the body to express itself. The hips, the legs, the quads, the back, all of it does its job, their job, through the foot. So if we can train, move, keep ourselves in bare feet in a safe environment, not walk in the asphalt or, but like in a safe environment, get our shoes off as much as possible, that will just allow the brain to naturally develop those 4 or 5 layers of muscles appropriately. So if that's the best appropriate shoe to train in, to work out in, to do stuff in, barefoot, and the brain will figure out the rest.
But when they come in with injuries really quick, because I know we have to wrap it up,
yeah.
Extra strengthening with if they are already injured. So for those who aren't injured yet, try to be barefoot as much as possible. But if you actually have issues, then you might need to do some further work with someone like yourself, right?
It's a great place to start. So no matter what, whether we're not experiencing anything, I feel pretty good. My son or daughter is a stellar athlete. Get him in bare feet because this stuff shows up. It's collectively all those little drops into the bucket, and then pretty soon the bucket spills over. And now it's like, 15 to 19 years old or 20 to 30. It doesn't matter the age. Everybody that comes in my office, as soon as they come in, they get checked on the table, and then shoes are off at the door, and we start moving.
Awesome. Dr. John, thank you so much. We're gonna have to have you back, not just for our other 2 prongs, but to finish up this one.
Definitely.
Hope you have a good day, and check on, see if people have questions. If anyone has questions, comments, Dr. John will get back to you, or I will make sure that I send them on to him. Again, you can reach him at drtommyjohn.com.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you very soon.